Hello epic viewers from around the multiverse, prepare to indulge in experiencing sheer bliss, because today another riveting Captain Stellar unboxing video is about to be brought to fruition. What item will I be unboxing? What item will I be opening? Without further delay, without further procrastination, allow me to elicit the box. What item is encompassed inside this bulky, hefty, tangible, nifty box? Let's find out. I'm going to demystify the answer to that inquiry right here, right now, so bear with me. It'll only take me billions of seconds to extract the item from the box and subsequently flaunt it in front of the camera for you to feast your glorious eyes on. Here we go. The unboxing process is about to commence. The unboxing process is officially underway. What item have I drawn forth? What item have I elicited? What item have I prompted? Let's find out. We have an action figure engulfed in bubble wrap. This figurine is obscured by bubble wrap. He's derived from the illustrious, revered, legendary DC Universe Classics action figure line. Is this action figure a paradigm of perfection? Is he the epitome of resounding perfection? Is he the embodiment of perfection? That's subjective. You can assess this figurine's merits down to the nitty-gritty details to determine whether or not he warrants a premium price. In my humble, subjective opinion, I believe that he's a worthwhile figurine. If you're an avid, devout DC Universe fan, then you may be inclined to procure this particular figurine. Apparently he's a Build-A-Figure. His name is Arkillo, I believe. You can verify that for yourself. Hopefully that was pronounced correctly. If not, then you can look up the official pronunciation for his name. Apparently he's part of the Yellow Lantern Corps. Perhaps he's part of the Sinestro Corps. What do I detest about this figurine? What do I disdain about this figurine? What's egregious about this figurine? What's abysmal? Well, he lacks any semblance of finger joint articulation. He lacks double-jointed elbows. He lacks double-jointed knees. He cannot rotate his forearms without rotating his biceps. They rotate in unison. They rotate in conjunction with one another rather than separately from one another. I love the fact that this figurine has a diaphragm joint. I love the fact that he can perform an ankle pivot. An ankle rocker is relatively pathetic, but at least it's there. He could ascend and descend his legs at your own discretion. They don't seem to be relegated to a ratchet. They can be moved outwards or inwards. You can adjust the position of his arms as well. They could be extended or contracted at your own discretion. He cannot clench his teeth together. His face is pre-posed. You have autonomy to rotate his head. You can swivel his arms. You can rotate his wrists. I would have preferred if his head was relegated to a disjoint rather than a ball joint, but it's not the end of the world. I'm glad that his appendages are not relegated to ratchets. I'm gratified that he's not marred with scratches or scuffs or dinks or dents that impair his appearance. He looks akin to his comic book appearance. Is he a villainous, evil, sadistic, coercive, menacing, maniacal, malicious, cunning, notorious, infamous character? Perhaps. I'm not well acclimated with this character's lore. I believe that DC Direct or DC Collectibles churned out their own version of Arkillo. So, if you wanted to procure this figurine, you would have had to procure all the corresponding figurines within the wave he's a part of. Each figurine apparently comes bundled with one of his body parts, he's an amalgamation of a plethora of body parts. As a cohesive figure, he's just extraordinary. I love his intricacies, I love his sculpt, I love his deco, I love his hues, I love his design, I love his novelties, I love his features, I love his shadings, I love his textures, I love his aesthetics, I love his demeanor, I love the facade that he's giving off, I love his persona. He just looks very intimidating. He looks like a creature you don't want to mess with. He looks like he can pummel anyone within his vicinity and beat them to a bloody pulp. He looks like he can wreak havoc against the allies of good. He looks like he can trounce, terminate, vanquish, and decimate anyone who dares to oppose him. He's definitely mighty, he's audacious, he's stoic. He instills trepidation into the hearts of his adversaries, so he's likely a subordinate of Sinestro, who knows, maybe he's an ally of Sinestro. His power may be derived from fear. I'm not well acclimated with the Yellow Lanterns. Perhaps their power source is from instilling fear in the heart of others, but who knows? I didn't read the DC comics, so I'm only speculating. I'm only making arbitrary assumptions. I don't know much about this character, but I would venture to guess that he's deadly in melee combat and in long-range combat. I would also presume that he's arduous to defeat. He likely ascertains victory against anyone within his proximity who opposes him. If anyone dares to challenge him, then they face death. When pitted up against Arkillo, your best options are to flee or outsource the fighting to someone else more efficacious in melee combat. So he doesn't look timid, he doesn't look meek. He seems to be relatively powerful, to say the least. So here he is once again. I'm buoyant, I'm content, I'm jubilant, I'm gratified, I'm optimistic, I'm happy. I have no qualms about this purchase and decision. I was able to reap eBay bucks post-purchase in him. I was able to reap a 2% cashback rebate post-procuring this figurine and paying off my debt to the credit card company that was related to my purchase for this figurine, or that concerned my purchase of this figurine. So essentially, if you procure this figurine on eBay and have a credit card that allows you to reap 2% cash back, then you could get a 4% cashback rebate, 2% in the form of redeemable eBay bucks and 2% in the form of credit card credit. So that's one way to recover some money post-purchasing this item if you want to minimize your losses. Is this figurine a net loss? I should say did the decision to procure this figurine culminate in me incurring a net loss, or did it culminate in me incurring, or did it culminate in me reaping a net gain? Does the figurine confer a higher state of being to me Does he confer advantages to my lifestyle? No, I wouldn't go as far to say that this hunk of plastic allows me to reap a higher standard of living. However, he does render me a happier, more optimistic person, because I love being surrounded by hunks of plastic that emulate the appearances of characters that I relish. So I'm done embellishing this figurine. I love this figurine. I love being engrossed in the DC universe. I love when my mind is entrenched in a fictitious universe. Here he is once again. He's a robust, extraordinary, intricate, novel, stellar, meritorious, remarkable, exquisite, state-of-the-art figurine. It's too bad he doesn't have a microchip embedded within him that would allow him to spew voice commands from his vocal folds, but we can't get everything we yearn for. I'm just content that I received a homogeneous version of Arkillo from the DC Universe Classics action figure line. So either get him on eBay as a standalone figure, or procure the whole entire wave so that you could assemble him for yourself. Just bear in mind that he could easily cost over $100 if you decide to purchase the wave, his armaments. If you just, I made a blunder. He could easily cost over $100 if you decide to purchase the wave that his appendages came bundled in new. So if you purchase him used, you could expect to pay roughly $50 for him, or perhaps even less. If you procure him new in the form of the action figure wave he's a part of, then you can expect to pay well over $100 for him. I'm unsure what your price threshold is. I'm unsure what the parameters of your budget are, but you may want to think twice before conceding to such a high, staggering, exorbitant premium price. When buying him, you're better off just purchasing him pre-owned, and he can be practically impeccable, practically immaculate, even if you purchase him used, since the dog collectors have a proclivity to cherish their merchandise and safeguard their action figure collection. In other words, this action figure was well preserved. He was well maintained. He hasn't been ravaged by the dog collector. So, remarkable figurine, to say the least. I love his yellow ring. Unfortunately, it's not detachable. You don't have the autonomy to remove it. But I just would have preferred if he came with fisted hands. But even with that minor flaw or minor shortcoming, it's not the end of the world per se. It's not enough of a deterrent to sway me to forgo buying this figurine. I'll just live with my decisions and brook my choices. So I hope that you deemed this video to be intriguing and insightful. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Goodbye.